Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another electrifying episode of the Business Bros. And we're here today to spark your sales success. So I'm your host, and we got a show with a dynamic expert who's mastered the art of sales, especially in the specialized trades like HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. So let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros.
Do this. You're in the trade business and you're eager to boost your sales game, building lasting customer relationships and watch your business thrive. Well, folks, today's guest is here today's guest is the expert who can light the way. Our guest started from the ground up, quite literally, in his dad's HVAC company. He didn't just rise through the ranks. He became the owner of one of the fastest growing construction companies in the U.S. Imagine the wealth of knowledge and sales secrets he's got to share. But before we dive into that interview, let me ask you this. Are you in a trade business, struggling to close deals, or to build those essential customer connections? Well, hold on to your hard hats because you're about to discover the keys to the trade industry sales success. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show the man who transformed countless trade businesses from local legend to national giants through his sales training and consulting firm. We won't keep you in suspense any longer. It's time to welcome to the show, Mr. Gene Slade. All right, Gene, welcome to the program, my friend.
What's up, big dog? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love the hang on to your hard hats. That's awesome. I'm going to reuse that. I'm going to steal that from you and sell it back to you next year. How about that?
I'm down with that, man. Use it however you like, man. That's part of what we do here on the show. All right, man. Let's start off with the first question I always ask. Everybody who comes on the show is looking to promote something. They're in business for a reason. How do you make your living, my friend? What do you do for business?
So we make our living by going around and doing on-site training on location at bigger companies, and then we've got an online platform for companies that are maybe a little bit smaller or maybe just starting out. That's a little bit slower platform. And then we do these live events where we rent out 16, 18, 20, 30,000 square foot mansions, and we live with people for 3 days, and we teach them the ropes inside those 3 days. So those are the three main ways.
You're the Tony Robbins of the HVAC and trades industry, my friend. I love it. You're teaching people how to grow their businesses. And it's funny because oftentimes I feel like, especially in the trades, there's a lot of people who they want to go off and do their thing because they don't want to work for anybody else. And then they realize real quick, like, oh, crap, I messed up. Like, it was actually a lot easier to work for somebody than it is to go out and build my own thing. And they struggle with things like sales and building those platforms. And you guys are out here kind of teaching them how to do that. So who's your target audience? Are you looking for that little guy? Are you looking for a bigger company? Who is it that you're after?
You know, man, we about 50% of our clients are technicians and 50% are owners. Usually it's the owner that introduces them to us. But really at the end of the day, man, I'm just looking for service people, a lot of them that are just driving behind that steering wheel who are working 60 or 70 hours a week, and they don't get to see their family much, man. Our whole passion is to help people in that situation to be able to work less, make more money, and get home for dinner on time. Because look, at the end of the day, the trades, that service type industry, very, very difficult on relationships and marriages and families and things like that. So our real passion is not for people to work 80 hours a week. We want them to work less, be able to make more, and then be able to spend time with their family.
What kind of education is needed for a lot of these things? I know personally, I have family in the trades. I hear them complain over and over how they can't find work. There's companies out there that just can't find people in the trade industry, not people that are just not willing to do that stuff. There's also the whole concept of people who have been in the trade industry are now aging out. You have people that are, the average age is in their late 40s, early 50s, which means a lot of that experience and education is about to exit this whole generation of
You're right.
workers. How are we going to get people on there? What kind of education does someone need to get started in the trades or to build one of these businesses?
Man, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because right now in the HVAC space alone, they are short almost 200,000 technicians nationally. And the trades have not been a space that have been glamorized or glorified over the year, but I have students that are making better than doctor and lawyer money right now. We're talking about one student that made $100,000 last month. So the education that you need really to start off is none. I mean, if you can change the oil in a car or you can change a tire, contractors out there will hire you, the right ones. They will train you. They'll give you the education that you need technically. And then you come to somebody like me for the communication style, because look, you only ever be worth about $40 an hour with your hands. But if you use your words, man, God, the sky is the limit. You can be those guys that are making $250,000, $500,000, $1 million a year working for somebody else. And I know you were talking earlier about these guys that jump into the space. What do you need to know there, man? You really do need to know about business. You need to know how to make the phone ring, and more importantly than that, when it rings, how to convert that into dollars, right? And that's not something that they teach you in a trade school. You're gonna have to find mentors. You're gonna have to find business people that know how to do that.
So how does one get started as an entrepreneur in this space? What was your journey like as far as becoming an entrepreneur in the trade space? Because like you said, working for yourself, working with your hands, you're going to top out at like $40 an hour. And by the way, which is not bad. And then you add in some of these per diem jobs and these double time pays. There's some guys working with their hands making a good income doing what they're doing. But you're opening the doorway to other things, and that tends to be more in the entrepreneurial space. How'd you get started as an entrepreneur?
Well, before I say that, go on to that. Don't get me wrong. Like when you're out there in the field as a communicator, you're still getting to work with your hands, right? So that's an essential piece to the trade. I was just saying that if you don't have the communication skills, you're going to get stuck. So where I started was in my father's HVAC business. When I was 11, he said, "Boy, if you want food, you want clothes, come to work." So I did, and I carried his tool belt for a few years. By the time I was 15, I was qualified to install an entire HVAC system, with a helper. So he hired a helper, bought another truck, and that guy drove me around, and I led jobs. So I got a lot of hands-on field experience the first 10, 15 years of my life. And that was what led me into starting my own company. You asked how that happened. I took my mechanical license test just to see what was on it. I had no intentions of going into business immediately. And I accidentally passed both the business and the law portion of the test. And I'd taken a day off of work in order to do it. Well, I don't know how my boss figured it out. I don't know if he was tracking me via GPS or what. But the next day, I was the sales manager for that organization. I gave 42 technicians an uplifting speech to get them out the door, and he and the boss waved me into the back room, told me my services were no longer needed because it was obvious I was going to start my own company. Now, this is not a typical story, because I had $100 between 4 bank accounts. I was paying off all my bills, trying to get my credit in shape because I knew I would eventually start my business. But I literally had $100 between 4 bank accounts. And I decided I'm not going to go out and build another business for somebody else. I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger. Don't know how I'm going to do it, but I went home and took out 20 credit cards, went down to the dealership and bought 2 trucks before the banks realized I didn't have a job. And then I moved 100 miles south to Fort Myers and started my air conditioning company there with a talk radio show, like on political talk radio on the weekends. So that was actually how I got into the deal. And 6 years and 1 day later, we exited for a really nice profit. And I went into semi-retirement for a little bit before we started Lead Ninja.
Let me ask you about growing a business, because when we all tell our stories, we always love to glamorize the good stuff, but the mistakes are really where the lessons are learned. These are things that are just going to happen regardless of how good a plan you have. It's never going to go to plan. There's always things that are going to happen. What are some of the biggest mistakes you made as you got started in your business that you kind of can share as pearls of wisdom now with people who are getting started?
Well, I only had one form of marketing, and that was these local talk radio shows where they'll sell you an hour on the weekends. And there was only so many of them in my market, right? And eventually I ended up buying everything that there was. And then I kind of capped my ceiling on growth because I didn't understand how to do any other form of marketing. You know, it was good enough to get us where we were, but if I'd known more about some of the other styles of marketing, then I know that we would have grown and scaled a lot more. And I made a bunch of hiring mistakes, man. Like I was not a good manager, and I say that till to today, right? I'm good at sales, I'm good at coaching and teaching people, but I'm not good at management. I've got a little bit of a short fuse, right? And people, when they can constantly doing the same thing over and over, and it's wrong, or you tell them to do something and they don't do it, and you're telling them multiple times, like I didn't have that leadership sense in my brain, knowing that I was going to have to continue to remind people, and that was part of my job. So I made a lot of mistakes in hiring people, and a lot of mistakes in not firing fast enough, right? I was too quick to hire and too slow to fire. And I've heard that you're supposed to be the opposite of that, right?
It's not easy to manage people, and hiring people the wrong way or getting people who don't fit the right role. Those things become very difficult to kind of fix, and a company can lose not only time but a lot of money as well when they're not hiring correctly. And I mean, I'm glad at least you know that this is one of the places where you're not very good at, because ultimately that allows you to fix those things, right?
Or
What
hire them
advice
out,
would you
right?
or hire them out, yeah, or sub them out? What advice would you give to somebody who is just getting started in business and maybe they don't know what they don't know yet?
Well, if you're anywhere around the trades, one piece of advice I would have for you is to go pick up the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And there is another one that's for contractors that was co-authored by a guy named Ken Goodrich. And I would say read that book before you quit your day job, right? Because so many contractors that I talk to on a daily basis have been in the business for less than 5 years, and they still haven't even cracked the $1 million mark, right? And they're looking at their life going, I had these big aspirations, these big plans, and I was a technician who, as Michael would say, had an entrepreneurial seizure. I didn't know anything about business, right? Now, fortunately for me, I had been around and in some management roles and had some pretty good mentors that knew business. Otherwise, I'd have had a much, much bigger struggle on my journey.
Yeah, I love Michael Gerber's book, by the way. The entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician, the three phases that you absolutely need in every business. And as an entrepreneur, oftentimes you start off being all of them, even though you tend to be
Yeah.
more one than the other. But you do have to find a way to kind of fill in those gaps for sure. And definitely reading books and learning from people who've already done it,
Oh,
finding
come on. Yeah.
mentors, that's a shortcut. 100% of the time is a shortcut. Uh, can you give me some examples? I always feel like the line I love to drop is facts tell, stories sell. But can you tell me some stories of how you've helped certain companies kind of take that next leap to identify their strengths, to identify their weaknesses, to identify who they are as a business owner to kind of excel and grow their business?
Man, that's a good question. And the best way for me to answer that question is the way that I help business owners is by helping the people inside of their company. You know, it's funny when we get to a certain stage in business and for the trades, I found that it's when a contractor gets up around 5, 6, 7 million dollars in revenue, a lot of times he starts turning switches off and stopping listening to other people, right? There's so much coming at us as an entrepreneur at that level of the game. We're getting ready to go through another like ceiling, if you will, that people bump up against in order to break through. So I work with helping the technicians and the salespeople to change their lives, and then as a result, you know, we end up changing the owner's life and the business. One quick example of that is a guy named Brandon who recently began working with us. We went out about a year ago to his company. He had been doing about $2.7 million in sales, and he was one of the owner's kids. And he really stuck to the process and the program. And over the next 9.5 months, he went from 2.7 to 5.4 million in sales. And the thing that I'm most proud of for him is that he took the last 10 weeks of the year off to have a baby with his wife. Like, tell me that is not phenomenal. So when we have
Exactly
those
why you
kinds of
got into
success
business.
stories, bro, when we have those kinds of success stories, that affects everybody, right? He becomes the rabbit, he becomes the John or the Roger Bannister of the company, and everybody begins to chase after what he's done because now something new is possible.
It's the dream, man. Like I always feel like when it's entrepreneurship, it's like when you buy a lottery ticket, right?
Yeah.
I'm in California. Recently, the lottery got to like 1.5 billion dollars, right? And everybody went out and bought a
Yep.
ticket, knowing that they had hardly any chance. There was hardly any possibility that they were going to win, maybe 1 in a million. But like Jim Carrey says, right?
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Possibility that maybe they're going to win. And what they start doing is they start dreaming. They start thinking about all the things that they would do if they were financially free, if they had all the time in the world. And I think entrepreneurs have that dream when they first get started. And then they get hit with the realities of all the different hats that they got to wear, all the different things that they got to do. And they lose out on that. And I love your story because it really shows exactly that. You got lost at 2.7 million top line revenue. You were able to almost double that and take 10 weeks off to go have your kid. Like, that's the dream. That's exactly why you got into this business in the first place. So if you were to identify, like every company, for example, says, this is the reason why you pay me the big bucks. This is what I do best. This is what my company's good at. What would you say is what your company does well?
Man, we focus not so much on the areas that a lot of people do. Everybody's focused on selling equipment, and we do that really, really well. But let's face it, especially in the HVAC world, systems are only replaced every 10 or 15 or 20 years. So if you're going out there twice a year, that costs the company a lot of money. So what we do is we help technicians and companies to be able to sell ancillary products, indoor air quality products, water treatment stuff, surge protection devices, things that otherwise, you don't have an opportunity to make money on. Like, let me give you an example. People typically charge about $250 for a maintenance contract for somebody to come out and clean their system twice a year. Well, it costs the contractor $150 just to show up. So it's a loss leader, right? Unless something gets sold while they're there, they're losing money. And that department, that service department, drains all of the revenue from the replacement department. So we take what's normally a $200 or $300 or $400 average ticket on maintenances, and we transform that into $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, sometimes $3,000 average tickets. And that just explodes the revenue and the cash flow for the service department and enables contractors to do things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So that's where we really, really just crush the industry.
That's something that I learned, and you can learn again from your mentors, just like Gene here. There's 4 parts to the business. 1, you got to grab attention. 2, you got to collect name, email, phone number, the database, right?
Yep.
3, you got to be able to make the sale. But 4 is you need to be able to extract cash from your clients over and over and over again. And I think most businesses fail at one of those 4 pieces, and they end up being self-employed, not having a true business in place. And I think that's what you're describing here as your strength. You're implementing all 4 pieces, and the big piece is that 4th one where you have a way to extract cash from your clients because they already trust you. They did work with you. They already want to do business with you. You're just not giving them the opportunity to continue to do business with them if you don't have these ancillary products or services in place. And you guys are not only helping them kind of to lay those things out, but to realize that this is how a business operates. I think too often companies just don't know what they don't know. They're just unaware of that.
Yeah.
This is how a big company operates, and you guys are kind of shedding the light on that. Why do you think it's like that? Why do you think that, especially in the services, in the trade space, that they're so limited on their full-on business capabilities, and there's only a few that really kind of take off? It's not something that they talk about. They don't share it with each other.
There's a lot of resources out there. I mean, the internet's full of them, but it's just like you were talking about, grabbing people's attention. Like, our attention spans are super short, and you make time for the things that are important to you. And unfortunately, it seems nowadays that education and learning is not as important as it used to be. So, I think that the ones that are smart enough, they understand that you pay to compress time. right? I can
Mhm.
take a year to learn something, or today I can take a 2-day course and come out of it understanding the subject fully, right? And number one, they don't know how to price properly, so they never have enough profit left over to get that education or to take a day off. And unfortunately, the type of people that get into the trades right now are not necessarily people that thought they were going to have a wonderful career and a wonderful earning potential. So I think that a lot of them have given up on the dream of being able to make a really,
Mhm.
really great life for themselves. I think that I mean, they say you're told no, what, 30,000 times by the time you're 5 years old. It's no wonder people quit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Not just that, the overwhelming feeling of when you go into business for yourself, that's really why people quit. It's not that they're incapable of doing the work, is they just get overwhelmed and burned out with all the other stuff that's involved.
Yeah.
Again, you put those systems in place, it makes a difference. All right, Gene, let me ask you about your business. I feel like if a business is truly growing, then they're focusing their attention on things that they can improve upon. First, they get good at one thing, they get really good at it, and they exceed, and then they look at how to become more efficient and help themselves out. What is it that you're currently struggling with in your business? What are you focused on growing and improving on?
Boy, that's so let's open up the kimono now, right? So I have built my business mostly on word of mouth. And the way that I used to market my HVAC company has not been the same way that I get to market this company. And I'm limited in my knowledge on internet marketing. So, I mean, just the other day, I was opening up a new AdWords account, right? And now I'm studying more about the marketing side so that I can effectively communicate with a marketing team. So that's an area that I'm struggling in right now is not being able to get this message out to enough people. It just destroys me and it breaks my heart when we have these phenomenal transformations and then I see other people that I can't get to and I can't reach to transform that with them, right? So breaks my heart that I'm not good enough at that yet, but I guess I'll always be on a journey of getting the message and the name out there.
Man, have you considered starting a podcast?
I have one.
Okay, okay. How long have you been at
Yep.
it?
That podcast we've been at a little over a year now. It's a video podcast that we use StreamYard as well to blast it out to everyone. And it's not something that we do on a scheduled basis. But I just this morning booked another girl who used to make 30 grand a year. Now she's got hundreds of thousands in the bank, has just bought a new house. Like she was living in a trailer when I met her. And within a couple of years, she was selling $5 million a year, making $500,000 a year. So we'll be
Yeah.
bringing her on soon to share some of her secrets and the things that she's doing in order to help people. So yes, we're doing that and we're doing some PR stuff, but we're really just getting started with winding up the marketing engine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, for me, podcasting has been the best prospecting tool I've ever come across. Your episode 1226, I've interviewed over
Woo.
1,000 different entrepreneurs. Literally, the show's booked out 10 weeks in advance, so it's like having an appointment book of potential prospects 10
It's
weeks out. Like
amazing.
it's been an amazing tool. So yes, you should definitely be capitalizing on that. And this is something I tell you after the show ends, but I'll tell you right now. You're going to get an email from me as well after, and it'll have an affiliate link for a program that we use. So you can take this long form piece of content and shrink it up into short pieces for social media. Because that's what it is, right? You need to show up on a
Yeah.
regular basis, consistently every single day, so that people are aware what it is that you do. And eventually when they need you, you're there showing up to pop out. All right, you're the CEO here. You've been helping people, leading people do things, grow their businesses on a significant level, helping them go from living in a trailer to making millions of dollars, which is phenomenal and brings joy, I'm sure, to you every single day in and of
That's
itself.
what it's all about, man.
But you're leading this ship. You have the vision. You're guiding your team in a specific direction. What is that future? What's the vision of your company here going forward?
Well, the vision's already begun, and that was with hiring on another executive coach that could help me to get the training out to more people so that I don't always have to be there. He actually just exited his business that he was a client of mine, right? And he just exited it and became a deca millionaire. So we brought him on, and now he's doing some of the training and the coaching. we've got to 100% get that marketing machine ramped up so that we can scale our online courses. Because as a father of 6 boys, I mean, I can only be away from the house so much doing these on-site and live events. So that's really what's next for us, is to scale up the marketing so that we can reach more people. And then we're going to have to find mansions bigger than 30,000 square feet, I think. We might have to go to convention centers or something like that, man.
That's it. That's the dream, though. You're living it up, and you have a goal in mind and you're working towards it every single day. Gene, if people want to reach out to you, they want to find out more about growing their trade business, they want to find out more about the trainings, whether it's in person, live, one-on-one, or online, how can they do that?
I would just text me. You can text me at 239-848-6533. And yes, that is my cell phone number. So you'll be talking directly to me, and I might end up having to have somebody else with the team help you. But if you need something, even if you don't want to spend money, I've got tons and tons of free content out there. I'd be happy to have a 5-10 minute telephone call with you and point you in the right direction.
Boom, that's where it's at. All right, Gene, thank you very much for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the trades business, and if you're not in the trades business, this is something you need to consider. The world needs people who can work with their hands, who have a skill set that they can make money off of. And if you are interested in growing it as a business, make sure you check out leadninjasystem.com, leadninjasystem.com, or shoot Gene a text. His number is 239-848-6533, 239-848-6533. He'll hit you. It's a cell phone number, so he'll definitely call you back, text you, whatever you need, and get you pointed in the right direction. Gene, thank you very much for being on the show today. I got one final question. You're a podcaster. You're getting into the marketing space. You're going on podcasts on a regular basis, from booking a spot on our show to finally creating content with us. What was your experience like being on the Business Bros?
Oh, it's been cool, man. I love the energy. And what I loved even more was the moment that we ended up booking this, I started getting marketing messages from you left and right via text. It was awesome. I was like, these guys have got their stuff together. So I super, super appreciate it, man. And yes, look, the trades might not have been something that you thought of as glamorous, but I'm telling you, they're recession proof. Okay. So you're never going to have to worry about getting a job, and you can make as much money as you've ever wanted to make. I've got teenagers that are making more than both of their parents combined. So it's there. It's available for you. All you got to do is do it.
That's it. All right, ladies and gents, one more time, leadninjasystem.com. Shoot him a text message, 239-848-6533, 239-848-6533. Gene, thank you very much for being on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace, and we're out.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.